Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Addicted to Success podcast. Today I have the legendary man himself, John Assaraf, who is a guest star on the hit movie, The Secret. He is a neuroscience specialist, a life coach, a best-selling author, and such a humble and well-respected man. So John, welcome to the Addicted to Success podcast. It's great to have you here.
Hey, Joel, it's such an honor to just be here with you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Yeah, I know we had you on, it would have been about a year and a half ago, and I still, to this day, hear so many Addicted to Success podcast listeners say that your episode was the standout for them because you really broke it down. It wasn't just like, oh, yeah, you got to stay motivated. So you really broke it down and explained how it happens in the brain. And I think some people really love to hear the statistics and the science behind success. So it's it's great for you to share that advice and really break it down in such a thorough way. So thank you.
Yeah, it's fun. The thing when you get into the science behind success, you also have to look at the science behind failure. And I'm not talking about temporary failure where you try something and it doesn't work. You try 8 things and 8 don't work. The science of failure around what really stops somebody from getting up one more time and actually doing it again, which everybody knows, you have to do if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an investor, you're not going to hit home run after home run after home run. And so I'm fascinated with both of those spectrums. And so I'm sure we'll get into some of that today.
Yeah, we sure will. I think failure is just as important as success. Everyone sees the glory, but they don't hear the story, and that's where we can learn the best lessons that we can also apply in our life. So yeah, you're right. So John, what are some of the new scientific studies and research that help people to release that underlying block that's stopping them from having financial success, that's stopping them from achieving greatness in their life? What is that?
One of the things that's really, I guess, coming to the forefront for neuroscientists and neuropsychologists is something that I call the thermostat effect. And so the thermostat effect is really easy for people to get their heads around. So imagine you get into your car, it's nice and hot in Australia, and you turn on your air conditioner, and the car is nice and cool now, 22 degrees Celsius, 70 some odd degrees Fahrenheit, and you're feeling nice and comfortable. And let's say you roll down the windows, or you probably don't remember what roll down the windows are, but you put a little thing on your car and the windows go down, and hot air comes into the car. And so when hot air comes in the car, there's something in the car called a cybernetic mechanism. It's a control and response mechanism that picks up that it might be 20 or 30 degrees hotter in the car than the setting on the air conditioner. And so the air conditioner just cranks up at the highest level that it can to cool the car down. By the same token, if you're in the car again and you're, in the middle of winter and the car's nice and 70 degrees, but you open up the window and cold air comes in, all of a sudden the car goes down to 50 degrees, the sensor in the car picks up the deviation and sends heat through the vents. And so that's a system within a car, within an airplane, a boat, a guidance missile system that keeps whatever the setting is perfect. And so when individuals want to achieve, let's say here's where they're at, and they want to achieve more success, they work hard, they read more, they go to events, they try to use conscious effort, willpower, and persistence to raise their level of performance. And in most cases, they're doing that through conscious, sheer grit and effort. But unbeknownst to most people, but not anybody who's going to listen or watch this, there's a mechanism in the brain that goes, hey, you're performing at this level, for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 7 days. What's going on? You're using up a lot of mental energy. You're using up a lot of willpower. You're using up a lot of persistence. I'm going to cause you to get back into your comfort zone. I'm going to cause you to have some doubts of whether you're able to sustain this. I'll cause you to procrastinate. I'll cause you to have a lot of rationalizations in your brain, which means you're going to tell yourself rational lies why you can take your foot off the gas and get back to your baseline. And the exact same thing happens if somebody's doing, whatever they've been used to doing for a year or two or three, and they've gotten into this comfort zone and the setting is already, in there and locked in. If they get below what they're used to, all of a sudden the exact same thing happens, but in reverse. They go, hey, come on, get out of bed early, read that book, go to that event, go and network, go mastermind, go find out how you can. And they work until they get back to that comfort zone and baseline that they're used to. And so I call that the thermostat effect, because so many people try to focus on using sheer hard work to change the thermostat. And if you want to, if I can go just for one more minute, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're with a bunch of your buddies or gal friends, doesn't matter, buddies as well, your mates, as you would call them, and you're on a beautiful yacht, let's say a 50, 70-foot yacht, whatever the case might be, and you put the autopilot on the yacht, and the boat is going, due north. You're having some fun, Bondi Beach, let's say, due north. And all of a sudden, somebody goes to the steering wheel and the automatic pilot's on, and they turn the steering wheel 30, 40 degrees to the left. And the boat turns to the left, and then they walk away. What does the autopilot do? It turns the boat back to the direction that the autopilot was programmed to. And then somebody else comes up and goes, we don't want to go north again. Let's go east. And they, turn the boat to the right, 30, 40, 50 degrees. And they go, okay, now we're going the right direction because the sun's setting, in a certain area they want to get to. And all of a sudden they walk away and the boat's automatic pilot goes right back to where it was heading before. Why? Because in a boat, there's an automatic pilot, and an airplane is an automatic pilot. And in human beings, there is an automatic pilot called your non-conscious brain. And whenever, ever, there's a deviation from what it is used to thinking, feeling, and doing, something known as the error detection mechanism, EDM, error detection mechanism, kicks in a nanosecond and says correct course to what the setting is. And that's why people who, double their income sabotage their success. That's why somebody who may end up with a really hot boyfriend or girlfriend sabotages the relationship. That's why somebody loses 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds, looks great, feels great, only to gain all the weight back. That's why somebody gets a job, they want to get a promotion, they get the promotion, and they feel uncomfortable in that new environment. They sabotage and get demotivated. Does that make sense?
Wow. I'm literally I'm feeling that and believe that, because I know that I had this upper limit. I broke through it. This is a few years ago. And then all these things started coming into play, especially with finances. I started thinking about tax more. Oh, I don't want to make more because I'd have to pay more tax. When looking at it now, look at it I'd love to pay more tax. It means I'm making more money,
Right. But you remember I said the rationalizations? You tell yourself rational lies and you believe it. That's the freaking weirdest part, is you believe it that this is rational. No, it's the error detection mechanism wanting to keep you stuck and comfortable.
Yeah, so you try and justify why you're setting those limits. So where does fear come into play? And how can we punch that fear in the face? How can we do that?
So let's take a real life example. And so let's say, you and I are buddies. We want to start a business, or we have a business. Come on, let's crush it. All right, let's do this thing. Let's triple our income this year. Let's make 30% more net revenues. Let's travel the world. Let's live this lifestyle that's amazing. And we get excited, right? So we go, oh yeah, oh my God, that's great. Let's do this. High fives all around. Dopamine's released. We feel great. We shared with our friends. We release oxytocin. So we bonded. Oh my God, I love you and you love me. And we feel great. We're going to conquer the world. And that happens all the time. But let's say that underneath the hood, there's a fear of, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not good enough, or what if I fail and I embarrass myself? What if I succeed and I can't maintain it? What if I'm ridiculed because I try so hard and my friends will laugh at me? There are 50 different types of fears that are almost in everybody's memory bank that gets brought up to the surface. And when the fear circuit lights up, which is bam, automatically within either moments, hours, or days, when you start realizing, holy shit, what is it going to really take to double or triple my income and to take the time off that I want? As soon as that happens, when the fear circuit lights up, then the system, the neuroelectrical chemical system floods with epinephrine, cortisol, and norepinephrine. What is that? Those are just 3 of the 100 chemicals in the brain that are part of the stress response system. Whenever you and I and everybody watching or listening thinks about or feels that there is potential danger, potential pain, whether it's emotional pain like being embarrassed or ashamed, or financial pain like not being able to have enough money to pay for my food or for my burger or for my cocktails or for my rent or my car or my airline ticket. If there is real or imagined possibility of discomfort, pain, the brake on motivation slams shut and we start to procrastinate. So we have this incredible system that can give us this motivation, the motive for action to go forward, but we have to temper it with our ability to recognize the trigger and the sensation in our body called a feeling that the non-conscious processing part of the brain that gives us this emotion called fear. All fear is processed at the non-conscious level of your awareness and then gives rise into the frontal lobes of the feeling that your body has. The average person that has not been trained feels fear and puts the brake on and goes and retreats into what they're comfortable doing. The successful person, either they may be genetically wired to understand feeling fear and doing it anyway, turning their fear into fuel, but that's not the majority of people. That's why 90+% of people fail and stay in that position. But you can take that fuel, that hypersensitive rocket fuel, I call it, and utilize it to actually motivate you faster, further than you ever got before.
Yeah.
Fascinating systems. If you don't know how to use them, too bad. It's like not knowing that a gun has got bullets in it and you pull the trigger. You go, holy shit, just blew my brains out. Not that you'd be able to, say that. They'd be like game over. But ignorance is not your friend when it comes to neurochemistry.
Yeah. Yeah, amen to that. It's the stretch, isn't it? It's really the stretch. It's like, how can I stretch myself? When I look back at my business and even, in my own personal life, the times where I really felt that I grew was when I put the 20,000 down for like a coaching session. I was like, holy crap, this is like a huge financial stretch for me. Mm-hmm. And something happens to you unconsciously where you just start absorbing more information. You get even more committed because you know that you've just stepped outside of the blueprint that you currently had and you're having to make the most of where you are now. It's like burning the ships, right? Like you're thinking about Rich, burning the ships, like not going back.
And most people can't do that because they haven't had a lot of practice at some micro decisions around fear. So when somebody feels fear, they're basically thinking about non-consciously first, if I put the money down and it's the wrong decision, then I just lost $20,000 or $10,000 or $3,000 and I worked X amount of time to get it or I borrowed it. And if I do that, then I'm going to be further behind than I am right now. And what if I don't apply what I learned? And what if? And so we are playing these unpleasant or negative scenarios, which by the way, I want everybody to pay close attention to what I'm about to say. That part of your brain is the normal default of the brain. It goes to what could go wrong first before it goes to what could go right. So let me give you an example. What if I said to you, hey, Joel, let's do this business venture together. You put up 20 grand, I'll put up 20 grand. You'll take care of podcasting, sales, marketing, networking. I'll take care of this, this, and that. And let's do this together. We'd probably get excited. Well, what would happen if you start to think about, well, what if it doesn't work? What if I don't deliver this? What if I can't do this? What if, I lose my money? What if I do that? And that's a normal discussion to have. And what if I told you, by the way, after we do the deal, here's the way you're going to think. You're going to have a whole bunch of these negative thoughts. You're going to have a whole bunch of these negative emotions. You're going to have a whole bunch of these sensations that you want to move away from. And that's going to be normal. Here's what I want you to do. Flip the switch. Flip from this right prefrontal cortex, which is supposed to do that for you, and let's flip you over to the left prefrontal cortex, which is the genius part of your brain. I'm going to say, okay, great. When that happens, I want you to flip the switch like that and shift over and see both sides. If we do invest together, if we do execute a plan, if we do what we say we're going to do, is it possible that we will hit our income goals, hit our net revenue goals, be able to do this and 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 this. And as soon as you can help somebody make that switch, shift from one part of the brain that's the pessimistic, we call it the Frankenstein part of the brain, and the other side is the optimistic, strategic thinker that can connect to all possibilities at all times, and that's the left prefrontal cortex, and that's where the genius part of you is. And that's why I have Mr. Albert Einstein there to always remind me, activate left prefrontal cortex and be aware of right prefrontal cortex, which is for the most part just bringing up memories from my 55 years on this planet, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, so it's a Frankenstein and the Einstein. I like it.
When Einstein is working, you are dreaming in the world of possibilities. How can I? What can I do? Who can I talk to? How will it work? What should I read? Who should I network with? What are the possibilities? What are the tools I need? What are the resources I need? And all the possibilities open up. When Frankenstein is lit up, it's doom and gloom. And so you just need to be aware. And this is where training your brain is so critical. You can train your brain to be aware, acutely aware of your senses, of what are my sensations? What's my heartbeat doing right now? What's my breathing doing right now? Am I anxious and nervous and stressed? Is my sympathetic nervous system activated? Or am I calm, relaxed, able to think clearly? Can I respond instead of being in this reactive state? That's a skill.
Yes, yes. And, with the operating from the sympathetic nervous system, that's more breathing from your stomach, right, than your chest, because a lot of us breathe from our chest and we're in this anxious mode all the time.
Right. When the sympathetic nervous system has kicked in, you're in your flight or fight response mechanism. So you're breathing shallowly, you're tense, your heartbeat's elevated, you might feel like you're sweating a little bit, and it's just tense. And parasympathetic is calm, observe, pay attention, be aware, be mindful, choose deliberately versus reactively.
Yeah. I think Joe Dispenza said something. We had him on the podcast a little while back, and he said something really interesting. He said, maybe we're just poor observers. Maybe that's our biggest problem. We don't sit back and just see it for what it is.
Right. And the observation he's referring to, and Joe's a friend, is first self-awareness, self-observation first, right? Yeah. And so if you can self-observe, then you can turn it outwards. But it all starts with being self-observing, awareness of when I'm uncomfortable, how do I respond? When I'm doubtful, how do I feel? When I've got negative self-talk going on, what's going on? When I'm procrastinating, what am I fearful of? Most procrastination, by the way, is done because of low self-esteem. If you knew how to get something done, you could do it highly effectively and on time, and you were loving it, you'd freaking do it. But most people procrastinate because they feel doubtful. They don't have all the information. They're procrastinating because they're worried that if they don't do it perfectly, somebody's going to judge them.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. So you were talking about before how like a lot of people have limiting beliefs. And I feel like it's such a huge part. A lot of it underlying really is that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, failing mistakes are bad, and so on. So in order to, because a lot of people talk about removing limiting beliefs, I feel like they're always kind of there, right? They're there from a very young age and our programming, and we can, improve it for sure. We softwire. I don't believe anything's hardwired. It's softwire. We can change it, right? But really to stack those limiting beliefs, is it creating new reference points in our mind? Is that what it is? It's like stretching and doing those things that seem a little bit uncomfortable so that you've got a new reference point to refer to so it becomes easier in the future.
So let's start off with what is a belief and where is it? So from a neuroscience perspective, a belief is nothing more than a cluster of cells that have gotten together and connected over time repeatedly. That's all it is. It's just a group of friends connecting and sharing their shit. Some of it's positive, some of it's negative, some of it will move you forward, some of it will move you backward, some of you just keep you stuck. So let's just call it for what it is. Nothing more than a neural cluster. Yeah. So if we ask ourselves, where did this neural cluster come from? Right? Well, my mother gave me some of her beliefs. My father gave me some of his beliefs. Being, at home with my siblings, I developed some beliefs. Being in school, I developed some beliefs. Watching television, I developed some beliefs. Reading some books, I developed some beliefs. So I got this incredible, complex belief system, some more powerful than others, based on a little bit of my genetics, but mostly because of my environment and the people who gave me their very finest. And so if you ask yourself, why do I believe that I'm not smart enough? And I know in my particular case, I didn't believe I wasn't smart enough because when I moved at 5 years old from Israel to Montreal, I spoke Hebrew. I didn't read Hebrew or write it, but I spoke it. I was just learning the alphabet. I was put into a classroom with 50 kids, all speaking French, and English was the second language they were all speaking. So I sat there for 2 years looking at the fucking wall. And not only did I feel stupid, I remember, I'm 55 now, so this is 50 years ago. I remember kids spitting on me in the playground because I couldn't speak English. So I'd get into fights all the time. I'd end up in the principal's office. My parents would be called into school. Your son's not doing well in school. He's having fights with the other kids. And I was frustrated. And the teachers didn't have time to work with me on teaching me a language. God, I didn't know the alphabet. So I was 2 years behind for my entire schooling up until grade 11 when I quit. I said, enough is enough. So I had developed this belief that I wasn't smart enough. Holy shit, where'd that come from? Now I know I'm freaking brilliant. And I'm not saying that in an egotistical way, but I study quantum physics, I study neuroscience, I study neuropsychology. I love it and I can understand it. But the point I want to make is I developed this pattern in my brain that I wasn't good enough just because of my experience as a 5-year-old. And I carried that on for about 15 years until I was 19. And I had a mentor, ask me, why do I think I left school? Why do I think I was getting in trouble? Why was I working for $2.30 an hour when I clearly could speak and talk and communicate? And I said, well, they told me I wasn't going to amount to much. They told me if I didn't get a college degree, I wasn't going to be smart enough to get a job at a company, and I wouldn't have any retirement. I wouldn't have any ability to contribute. I couldn't make enough money to take care of myself and my family. So I believed what the people that I'm supposed to believe told me. So I developed this neuron cluster around my own self-belief that I was not smart enough. And as a result of that, I couldn't do well in the real world. So what did I do? From 12 to 17, I lied, stole, cheated, sold drugs, did break-in and entries, did counterfeit money, whatever I could to make money because everybody told me you couldn't. So I figured out a way I could. And then I met one man who showed me that I could change my brain. He showed me that I could develop a new cluster of beliefs that I am good enough, I am worthy enough, I am smart enough, I can achieve what I want to achieve, I can learn, and it's easy for me. I can earn any amount of money I choose. I can learn whatever I need to learn to earn any amount of money I choose. And so I started at 19 doing daily affirmations. I recorded my affirmations. I listened to them for a freaking, 2-3 hours a day in my car as I was driving. I wrote out my goals. I recorded my goals. I was taught how to create a new imprint into my non-conscious brain, which is where your beliefs are anyway. And I started to repattern, rescript, and reshape my belief patterns, my perception of what's possible. And while I was doing that, my mentor says, great, let's upgrade your knowledge and your skills. So we raise your level of confidence and certainty. I want you to read this book. I want you to listen to this audio. I want you to do this. I want you to practice 1 hour a day on your skills so you get better. So as I raised my self-confidence and my certainty and my belief in myself, and I developed some good habits. Boom, one thing started clicking after another. At 19, I made $31,000. At 20, I made $151,000. At 26, I started building my own company and did $1 billion in sales 4 years later. I know this shit works.
You're the walking truth, John, right there.
But it's not just for that. I've used it, retraining my brain for severe ulcerative colitis. When I was 22, I worked so hard. When I got back from my world tour I was 23 in November 1983. I worked so hard. I ended up with severe ulcers in my colon. And severe ulcers in your colon are not fun because you shit all over the place, including during or before or right after making love, which has happened to me. And so you want to talk about embarrassment and learning how to rewire your brain? Put yourself in a situation when you're shitting in the car on airplanes and you're embarrassed. This could be you got to walk around with adult diapers because you don't know when you're going to have a bowel movement. So I learned a lot about the brain and the non-conscious mind and how to repattern the brain so it's in a state of being an at-ease state, which is where the genius part activates and works for you, as opposed to being totally stressed and burnt out all the time and being in the fight or flight mode all the time, which is fine initially, but beyond a certain point, you go through burnout and then the systems start to break down. So, I love your audience because I want to teach this to our younger generation,
Yes.
who's like just making up their mind about what I believe, what I deserve, what's possible for me. And I could tell people, I know what's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, I remember going through your Neurogym course after watching the Brainathon. And honestly, because I do a lot of research and I've read probably hundreds of self-development books by now. And I just love that your content is it's so foundational that it's like, forget all the fluffy stuff. It's like the core essential things you really need to know, but you explain it in such an elegant way, which makes it easy to understand. And, even with my coaching, and I know now when I sit, with people that I interview that are at a high level, that have been studying self-development for 20, 30, 40 years, some of the legacy leaders, when they're explaining things now, I do quite often go back to the core things that you've taught, and I get it. It's like I've created a foundational understanding of what they're talking about. So yeah, your course is an absolute game changer. So
thank you. Appreciate that. Well, what's fun for me is I started to retrain my brain at 19 years old, and it opened up the world of success to me in health, wealth, relationships, career, business, fun, experiences. And then I started to teach it to my employees.
Yeah.
And, in Remax, back in 1992, I hit a wonderful plateau where I hit, $1.2 billion in sales. And people go, well, that's great. I said, but that wasn't the ceiling for what our possibilities were. And so no matter how much I trained, our real estate agents had 1,500 of them. We grew to 1,500. I may have had maybe 1,200 at the time. But we stopped teaching them how to sell more real estate. And we started working on retraining their brains, retraining their financial set point, retraining their expectancy point, retraining how they thought about prospecting, retraining how they thought about doing the high income and the high impact activities. And over the course of the next 4 years, we increased our sales by $3.3 billion.
You what?
Increased our sales
Insane.
by $3.3 billion to $4.5 billion a year in sales. Why?
God.
Because we reset the agent's expectancy point. The average real estate agent at the time was making about $30,000, $40,000 a year in the industry. Our agent's average was $128,000 per person, average. And I'm going back quite a while.
Yeah.
And then I did the same thing with bamboo.com. And we grew that from 6 people to 1,500 in 14 months, did 10 million a month in revenue on the 9th month, and did a successful IPO on NASDAQ. It wasn't because we were the smartest kids on the block, but we trained our team to think at a higher level, to be able to overcome the doubts and the fears and the anxieties that hold most people back.
That's amazing, John. That's amazing. You know, I truly believe that your business can only grow to the extent that you do. Like self-development, 100%. Like you working on yourself, like you're the starting point for everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's such a great example. Yeah. John, why do people love to master disappointment?
It's actually a little bizarre in the neuropsychology arena. Most people would prefer to master disappointment because at least they're getting the self-confidence that they could be good at something.
Yeah. So it's like, told you so. Told you I would fail.
Right.
Told you.
And it's a weird psychological phenomenon where mastering disappointment is actually safe and rewarding. And in a bizarre way, you can actually see why at least I'm good at something. And so I know that if I set myself up, to win, chances are I'm not going to win. So let me master disappointment so I have some self-worth and self-esteem. And so we become, I'm going to say many people become, because I don't want to do that. Many people become so used to mastering disappointment, that's their only source of feeling good about themselves.
I feel sorry for them. I feel compassionate for people like that.
I feel so compassionate for them because nobody's, the challenge, Joel, is it doesn't have to be that way because it's not their fault. They just haven't used or learned how to use their tool well. Think about this. If you give somebody, a Lamborghini and they drive it into a ditch, it's not the Lamborghini's fault, right? Yeah. And so part of the challenge is we're dealing with the most sophisticated software tool, the 3-pound tool between our brains. What's the user's manual? What does your hippocampus do? What does your left prefrontal cortex do? What happens when the amygdala fires off and cortisol is in your bloodstream and you feel uncomfortable? What should you do? Right? Like if I was in my car and I flooded my engine, you'd probably know that the engine flooded. You'd wait and then turn the car back on again, put the gas on. Well, because you've been taught that, right? If your car stops, there are 2 or 3 things that it could be. Well, when was the last time somebody taught you about your emotions and what they are? Your emotions of happiness, sadness, fear, shame, disgust, your core emotions. What about, when you're feeling stressed out? Like, how do you know you're feeling stressed out? And what is one simple exercise you can do to get from the sympathetic nervous system, which is the stress response system, fight, freeze, or run away? How do you turn that and use that into your fuel so you're actually moving forward instead of running away? Most people that are watching or listening are going, I don't know. Well, but it's your brain. It's your system. It's your 100 chemicals in your brain. It's your 30,000 genes that you can turn on or turn off based on your thoughts and your internal or external environment. If you don't know, then you're ignorant. Now, I want to make sure everybody understands something. I did not call you stupid. I called you ignorant. You, every one of you that's listening, is brilliant, genius, but ignorance just means I don't know. Guess what your job is? Find the fuck out. Because ignorance will spoil and kill your dreams. It'll spoil and kill your potential. And you will feel like there's something wrong with you because all around you, you're going to see people are succeeding way ahead of you. And you're going to wonder, like, what's wrong with me? What am I doing that's not right? And the answer is you just don't understand. You know, I keep these Rubik's Cubes on my desk.
Yeah.
You know why? There are people who can take this Rubik's Cube and in about 7 seconds, they can solve it behind their backs while they're blindfolded. There are people who will solve this 8x8 cube in about, I think the world record right now is about 12 hours to get this done. There are billions of combination and possible moves here, and there's quintillions of combinations here. Why am I showing you this? Because it's all about pattern recognition. If you understand how to recognize the pattern, how to get, 4 of the colors onto one side, that's the beginning of the pattern. Well, guess what? Success is a pattern. Being healthy is a pattern. Being wealthy is a pattern. Being in a great relationship is a pattern. All of it, it's a pattern. And if you understand, you learn the pattern, for success, there's a thought pattern that'll help you achieve success. There's an emotional pattern that'll help you achieve success. And there is absolutely, unequivocally, a behavioral pattern that when you do this and that, you have a predictable result almost every single time.
Yep.
Learn the patterns. You will be able to achieve success not found in common hours.
100%. John, I know that you're a fan of basketball. And when I was a kid, I was 7 years old. This is the first time I was ever jazzed up and excited to follow my dreams. I'd watched that classic movie, Space Jam, with Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny. I remember running around, like slam dunking the top of the door frames and just like I got a 6-foot basketball ring and I was out there dunking it. And I remember my mom gave me this book called Rare Air, which is the biography of Michael Jordan. I remember reading it and just thinking, how is this guy that is like, he's built the same as so many players in the NBA, but what made him different? And I watched how he played, and I would because I was in a basketball, then I was playing in a team, and I just used to watch how he played. And I remember later down the track, you understand it's mindset, right? You start to understand that.
Sure. Then
you be like Kobe Bryant. He would sit there and watch replays and replays of Michael Jordan. He'd study his moves. What he really was studying was the patterns that you're talking about. How he used left hand, right hand, the sequence. That's what he was following, and he's incredible as well. So there you go. Success leaves clues.
And if you take a look at Dr. J, and you take a look at Vince Carter, you take a look at Dwayne Wade, and you take a look at any of the players today, LeBron, they studied the patterns of other great players. And that's what is really fun that's the fun I'm having now is I know that if I gave 100 people the blueprint of what to do, one might do it. But if I trained 100 people's brains to focus on what I want them to focus on, and I trained them how to manage their emotions, and I gave them the blueprint of what to do, I can get 60 to take action and follow through. And you may ask, how do I know this? Because I know when I used to sell our coaching programs for $5, $10, $20, $30, $50, $100,000, when we didn't do the mindset training and the emotional management training, the success of our clients was maybe 5 or 6%. And when we did include the mindset, the emotional management, and the skill sets, 62% of our clients started to achieve phenomenal success.
That's a great result. That's an insane result. And a lot of that's in the brain, in the neuro gym, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Again, everything we do is around mindset, skill set, and action set. And for me, mindset is really a combination of, how do I get you to prime your brain and focus on what it is you want to achieve versus the doubts, the fears, the anxieties, the lack of confidence, the lack of certainty, and the 50 different type of fears that will try to hold you back.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two is, how do I make sure you're doing the right things in the right order at the right time? And then number three is, how do I create an environment for you that you feel safe to be able to share when things aren't working well, and to be able to share when things are working well, so you can inspire others around you, so you have got forward momentum no matter what.
Yeah, no, that sounds promising. That's promising for sure. John, just got a few more quick questions here. This comes up quite often. I hear a lot of people using the excuse of, I'm getting old now, or, I'm not at the age to be able to do this or that. What's your view on the age of someone and what's possible for them, especially when it comes to their mind? Like what's possible?
Sure. It's funny you said it, because just about an hour ago.
Like, it's obvious, John. It's obvious. Like, it's like you can achieve anything, but like, what can people do if they're feeling like that?
It's a story that they're telling themselves, but we have a client of ours. Her name is Rama. She's a wedding planner in Hawaii. She's 80 years old, and her business was just declining for a few years. And she joined us on one of our brainathons, which we had some brain experts on there with me. And it was an amazing training that we did. And she ended up learning more about her brain, how her brain, can create new neural pathways. She could learn how to refocus and really, achieve more success than she was giving herself credit for. And she's actually going to be on my upcoming brainathon, and she will be sharing in her own words. She just took a trip to Thailand. She's traveling the world with her husband. She's made $250,000 this year in her wedding planning business. And she says she feels like she's 45 again, because she's got so much life and vim and vigor and possibilities that she's rekindled her entire belief that she can change and she can achieve incredible success. She's 80 years old.
I love that. That's such a great example. It's like, the quality of your life is in direct correlation with where you live emotionally. And so if she feels like she's achieving and she's young again, and she can be competitive and be in that space, she's going to feel young in her life. So, yeah, that's amazing, John. Well done. John, if you could have one mentor for the rest of your life and you couldn't have anybody else, just this one mentor, who would you take advice from?
God.
From God.
Yeah. And I say that I'm not religious. I was born into the Jewish faith, but I celebrate holidays with my kids, but I'm not religious. And the reason I say God is because I believe that within me is God. Within you and everybody watching or listening is God. The intelligence that lives, breathes, is in everything and in everyone, is where all of the knowledge and intelligence is in the universe. And by tapping in, by using our electromagnetic switching station called our brain into the field of all knowledge and intelligence and all of the information that exists in the field of intelligence, I have access to the entire Library of Congress for everything ever that has been created or will be created. So that's the source of all supply. That's the source I want to learn from.
Love that advice. Yeah, you've got to believe and be resourceful. Yeah.
And use your resources too, right?
Yep, that's right. So John, what is the Brainathon? And how does the Brainathon, because I remember watching it, it's like 6 or 7 hours long, I think. It's a long webinar and it's jam-packed, which is great. What makes this different to anything else that's being taught out there right now?
So why did I start the Brainathon? Number one, fortunately for me, I've been able to hire some of the top neuroscientists, neuropsychologists in the world, and I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars getting them on my advisory teams and paying them for the best research and information in the world on how to perform at the highest level possible. How do I get and stay focused? How do I raise my level of awareness? How do I let go of the feelings of shaming, blaming, feeling guilty? How do I recognize my fears, my doubts, my lack of confidence, my negative or limiting beliefs. How do I become better at playing this game of life in business, health, wealth, relationships, etc.? So about 5 years ago, I decided I'm going to bring some of my top neuroscientists and neuropsychologists who are on my advisory team. And we just, let's banter. Let's do a 2 or 3 or 4 hour, session, a day-long session to give back to the world who doesn't have access to them. And I think the first year I had, 6, 7, 8,000 people register. I did it for free. We broadcasted live. We took questions. We had just an amazing day. Last year we had 68,000 people sign up for it. And I bring on individuals, like for example, this year we have Dr. Srinivasan Pillai from Harvard. He is a trained classical pianist, trained neuroimaging expert, leading expert in the world on stress and using the brain to achieve strategic speed. Brilliant. He's going to actually do a session on strategic brain speed, on how to really get your brain to do what it does brilliantly well, which is process 400 billion bits of information per second, but we're not aware of it. I brought in Dr. Daniel Friedland, former chairman of the Integrative Health and Medicine Association. He is a leadership expert, works with major corporations, individual teams on turning stress into fuel for success. So he's going to do a session coming up on turning your financial stress into your fuel for success. I've got Mark Waldman, who's my chief neuroscience coach in my company. He has written 14 books. He is one of the leading researchers on emotions, on how to turn any of your negative beliefs, negative habits, or limiting habits, traumas, fears that you have, how to recognize them and then turn them into your favor so you can let go of them. I've got Sharon Pearson from Australia, who you may know, that's going to be on this year's Brainathon coming up. And she's a neurolinguistic programming expert, understanding language patterns of the brain and self-talk, and how to take any stories, excuses, or traumas you've had in the past. She was suicidal. She was going to commit suicide. She turned, her life around, runs a $10 million company. I've got David Bach coming in on this Brainathon, who is one of the top financial gurus and experts in the world, talking about how anybody, even on a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year salary, can retire rich by just making a few adjustments in how they spend money and where they invest their money. So he'll be doing a session. I've got, who else? Evian Gordon. He runs the largest neuroscience database in the world, where thousands of neuroscientists fill his database with their latest research that he mines for the latest scientific-based ways to utilize your non-conscious brain to your advantage. So I've got these individuals from around the world that most people have never heard of that are doing world-class, amazing research that they will be sharing, how you can just be a peak performance thinker and in control of your emotions and your behaviors. And so the Brainathon is about 7 experts. This year, by the way, we have Larry King is coming to moderate one of our brain expert panels. So he's going to be in studio live with me. And then I've got 5 clients of mine that have been retraining their brain for the last year. Kat Rama, 80-year-old. I've got, who else is going to be there? Alicia, is a chiropractor who turned her life around, is making about $50,000, $60,000 a year, working about 20 hours a week. I've got Kay Roche, a coach who left her corporate job and then replaced her income within 90 days. She was making about 60 grand, then cranked that up to $10,000 a month, and now she's looking to make millions. We've got Deborah Meyer, who was a PhD from Princeton University, but had pennies in her bank account, never made more than $34,000 a year. She's getting ready to crank out about 200 and some odd thousand this year. So we have guests on the show as well that say, here's what I learned on the Brainathon when it was on the last time. Here's how I applied it. Here's how my life has changed, whether they're healthier, happier, better, traveling, doing charitable things, living their lives to the max. And so the entire event's about earning more, living more, and giving more. And so the Brainathon is something that I do every year. And it's 6, 7, 8 hours. People come for an hour or 2 hours. hop on, hop off. Most people get hooked and addicted because the content's just so phenomenal that you don't hear about this in personal development circles because these people aren't speakers who go around speaking. I've brought them in to be able to share what we teach all of our clients at Neurogym.
There you go. There you go. That's amazing. That's so much value for what it is, and it's free as well. It's free to go in. You know,
well, it's free. It's free to everybody who's joining. It costs me, a little bit of money to put it on, but that's part of my contribution back to the world and to build my company's brand and to show people that there is an easier, faster, better way to do things today because the advancement of technology is just changed our lives, and brain research that's going on is just revolutionary.
Yeah. Yeah. And guys, if you're listening right now and you are addicted to success, this is what you need to do. Self-education. You need to jump in on this. Learn from like the super nerds, the guys that don't usually go and speak on it. Find the information from them because that information is going to be so valuable for you if you can apply it in your own business. You've got lots of coaches and authors and so on. So you can get quite a lot of valuable information there that hasn't been spoken about before. So make sure you check that out. And it's about the effort, right? And this is the best place. You're getting the best information that's out there. So jump on it. This is the link. If you're listening right now, it's addicted2success.com. That's with the number 2, addicted2success.com/brain, as in brainathon. So just addicted2success.com/brain. John, thanks a million for offering this for the audience.
Awesome.
I love everything that you're doing. And, I can just continue to see you flourish as a leader in this industry. And it's just great to have you leading by example. So thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you for all the great, amazing work you do in the world. And I love to see your growth and just how your heart's opening up to sharing with more people. It's so beautiful to watch.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Awesome. All wrapped.